Hey, I'm Matt Manny. Thanks so much for joining me for this devotional thought for today. We're talking today about what to do when you find yourself losing relationships, when you have something that happens and you struggle to forgive. Now, can you imagine with me for just a moment the night that Jesus was going to be crucified, just before he goes to the Garden of Gethsemane, just before he's arrested, just before he goes to his trial and he's whipped and he's then crucified the next day. Just before all that, he's sitting down to dinner with his closest 12 friends, the 12 disciples. And as you think of that situation, sitting at the table that night, all those individuals, Jesus knew that in a matter of hours, they would all bail on him. They would all break his trust. And specifically, two of them, one would deny him and another would betray him. He had poured his life into them for 3 incredible years, and yet he found that in one night's time, when the going got tough, that one would deny and one would betray. So the question for you today is this: what do you do when someone betrays your trust? What do you do when somebody denies you or talks bad about you behind your back? How do you know when you have relationships that you want to just let go of? But what if there was a relationship to restore and a relationship to release? We're going to talk here for just a few moments of how to know when to release somebody and when to restore somebody. Peter, Jesus restored him, but Judas, he released him. So how do you know how to get through that? Well, there's a couple of steps. There's several steps we want to talk through. First of all, the step number one is this: to forgive. Learn to forgive. Now, forgiveness is different than trust in this. We forgive not for their benefit, but for ours. If we continue to hold on to the pain, it'll cause us to be poisoned within. And so we begin to forgive. Why? Because it's for our benefit. Jesus says that if you don't forgive others, my Father will not forgive you. And so we forgive others so that we can continue to feel God's grace and His mercy and His forgiveness to us. So we forgive them for our sakes, not theirs. Step number 2 is put the ball in their court. Jesus did this with Peter. He talked with Peter and he restored Peter as he talked through these things and said, Peter, do you love me? After all this had come to an end, he said, Peter, do you really love me? 3 times. Just like the 3 times Peter denied, Jesus asked him 3 times, do you love me? The third step is this: to rebuild trust in others with time. You're not going to go ahead and go through a difficult situation and then ask them to go on vacation with you, maybe. You're not going to go ahead and want to go ahead and just pick up where you left off, because obviously it takes time to heal after you've been hurt. And so with time, begin to exercise that muscle to trust them again, to go ahead and try to restore that relationship. Number 4 is this: regain trust again within by trusting again. Regain trust within by trusting again. Now, you may not trust that person right away, but learn to trust other people with time. You have to trust people, because if you shut down the trust factor, it's the same thing with love. If you stop trusting, you stop loving. And that doesn't just mean that you stop giving out to that one person, but you end up stop giving out to everybody. And if you stop loving others and giving out love, you also stop receiving that love that you and I desperately need. The very thing that we're fearful of is the very thing that can go ahead and heal us. 1 John 4:18, listen to these words. John writes this: such love has no fear, because perfect love expels all fear. He says if we are afraid, it's not for fear of punishment, and this shows that we have not fully experienced Jesus' love, His perfect love in us. And so as you consider today dealing with maybe a hurt and hardness in your heart, it's time to trust once again. Now remember that 4-step process. We need to forgive for our sake, not theirs. We need to put the ball, number 2, in their court and talk to them, initiate, and then if they don't respond back, hey, you can go ahead and move on with life. Then we find, don't forget, the 3rd step is this: as you put the ball back in their court, rebuild trust with time. And as you rebuild trust with time, number 4 is you regain trust within by trusting once again. Thanks so much for joining me. I pray that these thoughts and words of encouragement will help you to heal once again.